Hello and welcome to the Empathic Healers Masterclass. My name is Robin Knott. I teach energy healing methods with a strong focus on self-care, self-worth, and self-love in order to break old programs, including codependency, without feelings of blame, shame, or guilt. Probably should have warned you I was going to share my screen, but here we go. So just a little background for myself and my program and my system and how this is all coming together. So I started with, when I came online, if you read that last slide, I switched my career path a little bit from being a social worker to coming online, teaching Reiki, energy healing methods, and creating a business online. So in doing that, I started with the 7-day chakra healing challenge. And here's just a few people that have taken it. I've taken some clips, from the comment section. It's a free challenge. You are actually invited to take that challenge as well. My apologies, I lost my train of thought for a moment. So, background of mental health and addiction treatment therapy and different, case management, teaching, and such, but different things I learned along the way. And then learning Reiki and incorporating energy healing helped build this system. But again, it started with the 7-day chakra healing challenge. Then I started making these connections. If you're familiar with cognitive behavior theory, talks about how our thoughts create our emotions, and then our emotions bring us our action, and then our action, after our actions, of course, we have consequences, right? I took it a little deeper than that, and there's pieces that match in with the 7-day chakra healing challenge. In doing that, I then started working with the polar opposite chakras to help balance that energy. And again, bringing more, my brain, I have one of those overthinking brains, kind of bringing all of that together and working even more with the energy, which then birthed, if you will, my 5-day money blocks clearing challenge. So the 5-day money blocks clearing challenge uses the energy of the chakra system and incorporates our beliefs and our emotions and our self-image. And I will lead into that just a little bit more in a second. But just sharing just a testimonial from someone who has taken these courses, right? I don't know if the sound honestly will work, so I won't play the clip that I had put in this for you. However, if you would like to go to my YouTube channel, Energy Healing TV and Podcast, I have a playlist for video testimonials, and you can have a listen there. You may know Diana. Diana has taken a few of my courses and was gracious enough to give me this testimonial. Oh, it went on play anyway. I was just trying to move. And then Jennifer has also taken a few of my courses, including Reiki. And she's now in my Reiki intensive, actually. So I started with, teaching Reiki 1, and then now I'm putting all 3 together. With that said, I'm leading all of this in to present to you my system here, which might not make a lot of sense as it sits, but at least you can see a little bit of a connection here with the 7 main chakras that are in line with our spine, right? So you can let me know if you are familiar with the chakras or not familiar with chakras. Again, if you're not, the 7-day chakra healing challenge is a great way to get started, right? So that step beyond, if you will, is what I call the best you. So it's an acronym. You can see in the picture here, kind of upside down, but I listed it out for you for it to maybe make a little bit more sense. So our beliefs are literally like rooted in our root chakra, right? They are the root of our experience. It's how we see the world, how we see ourselves. I'm going to go through best you first, and then I'll backtrack to what you see underneath. Excuse me. Our emotions are governed by the sacral chakra. Our self-image, the solar plexus, right? They talk about the solar plexus chakra being your self-power. Excuse me. And then the heart space is where the energy of the lower chakras come to the heart. Energy from the higher chakras come to the heart space. They meet. Some say they bridge, connect, whatever language you want to use. But that's where transformation occurs, right? That's our opportunity to transmute or transform any lower density energies when it comes up to into the heart chakra. So that's that space of transformation. So far from the lower chakras up to the heart, we've spelled the word best, right? Beliefs, emotions, self-image, transformation. Then continue on in the throat chakra, and you have your truth, how we speak, right? It's our communication styles. And then third eye chakra being the observer, right? We're really stepping above the humanness, the ego, and observing from that higher space, our highest self, from our soul. And then unconditional love through the crown chakra, that's like that doorway, that space, how we connect with God's source, universe. I like to say the source of unconditional love. So then if you see underneath, if you've been following along, I have the self-care challenge, right? So I've been speaking each day, covering one letter of the acronym, if you will. So on Mondays, it's that self-awareness. Again, beliefs, root chakra, getting to know ourselves again, which is root chakra energy, dealing with the physical body. Next, the emotions. I kept emotions, but then I also talk about just to be mindful of that saying, which I obviously didn't create, that emotions are energy in motion and how powerful that is. So that can be powerful to our benefit or to a disadvantage, right? So as empaths and feeling all the energy around us and other people's emotions, it can depend. So having that self-awareness, being grounded within ourselves is so important. We'll be talking about that more in just a moment, right? So the next under self-image is love, to meet ourselves with love and compassion. I'm very much about working within, right? Working on ourselves to create that ripple effect. So then whatever we're projecting out is ideally a higher vibrational energy, more based on unconditional love instead of that human ego-ness stuff. Then again, in transformation, what is more transformational than forgiveness? Forgiveness for self and others. And I know that's a deep one, and we're just scratching the surface today. And with your truth, learning more about our communication and communication styles. For observer, also acceptance, like radical acceptance, as we're observing, seeing things as they are before we insert any type of human ego opinion, just having the awareness, right? The acceptance as it is. We're not having a judgment on it. We haven't made any decisions or opinions about it yet. We're just observing and accepting it as it is, and then we continue on, right? And then finally, the R in self-care. So again, if you look at the first letter of each of those words, it spells out self-care. Of course, I had to extend that a little bit because I had the extra letter E, if you will, but receiving energy every day. So being mindful of what kind of energy are we receiving every day? Are we receiving the energy of unconditional love? Or are we receiving the energy of the word chaos came to mind just because of the state of the world right now, right? I'm not trying to be rude or harsh or judgmental, but sometimes it does feel like chaos, doesn't it? So there's a very brief introduction of myself and how I led into and created my system. We were supposed to be on Expertise TV program, and I was going to give you some tips on how to interact there. However, so if I'm able to get it to work after this, and I'm able to save this recording and upload it to share with you at a later date and time, then as you watch, you should be able to point on the picture on the screen to make it bigger. So if you want to see the presentation, you would click on that so you can see the presentation bigger. If you wanted to see my facial expressions as I'm explaining something, you could click on me and it would bring me up bigger. Okay. So to be determined at this point. I'm just going to leave it at that because it didn't work how I was expecting it to. So here we are. With all that being said, are you ready? Well, let's get started with today's masterclass, focusing on setting boundaries and protecting our energy. So quick, brief, there are many types of boundaries that we can set in our life, right? So this applies to any and all of them. And you have to insert different pieces for each of us in every situation, right? So whether it's your physical boundaries, some people really want more than an arm's length distance, and other people are fine and comfortable with up close, right? We have our emotional bodies. Also, I want you to think of our energy body, in which it says spiritual boundaries, but also energy body, right? So we have our physical body, but we also extend that out. Sorry if you just heard my shoulder pop. Out beyond the physical, right? So what do you want in that space? And let's extend that to the energy we receive from others and the emotion that we receive from others. Okay? Pin that, keep that in mind as we move forward. So again, we're going to start in the root chakra, beliefs and self-awareness. So core beliefs, in cognitive behavioral theory, they call it core beliefs, have a direct impact on the way we perceive the world and interpret what happens. They color our judgments of others and also our self-judgments. And they formulate the rules you live by every day, right? Sorry, went too fast. So what we believe as individuals and communities is significant. So think of even all the things that help to program our beliefs, right? We have our families, whoever we grow up with in our household, schools, if you go to a public school, a private school, if you were homeschooled, any other type of community organization you might be involved with, a sports team, hobbies, um, just society in general, right? Our cultures, all these play a role in how we develop our belief system. So, what we believe as individuals and communities is significant. Sometimes what we say we believe and what we believe that we believe is not what we actually believe. So, I'm not going to lie, I really like that. That was from Psychology Today. Let me say that again. What we believe as individuals and communities is significant. Sometimes what we say we believe, so I believe everyone deserves unconditional love, safety, dignity, respect, abundance. Okay, there's just five at the top of my head, sharing an example. So sometimes what we say we believe, I believe these things, and what we believe, so what's rooted deeper than what I'm consciously aware of and thinking in this moment, may not be what we believe that we believe is not what we actually believe. So do my actions support what I just said? And do the actions, if you agreed with what I said, do your actions agree with you? Because when we don't set boundaries and that's not accurate and true, then we don't actually believe that. Everyone, because that would include us. If everyone deserves dignity and respect, that includes us. If everyone deserves unconditional love, that includes you. So if we're not setting and maintaining boundaries and protecting our energy, then how does that support that unconditional love and respect and dignity for ourselves as part of that collective, right? Deeper. So self-awareness, we want to be aware of ourselves. Being self-aware and practicing daily reflection and introspection allows each of us the opportunity to find what we really want out of this precious life. Excuse me, we are all susceptible to outside influence and personal bias. Without self-awareness, we are even more susceptible. So not knowing, gosh, excuse me, you guys. So one piece I want to share here is, have you ever felt like you lose yourself? Like you're so engulfed, ingrained, and focused on what's going on around you or with someone else, whether it's a close personal friend, a family member, the world right now, right? The news, politics, whatever it may be. Do you find sometimes that you're so focused on all of this around you that you lost sight right here? Right. So we're not self-aware in the moments when we're so focused on everything around us, right? So then what's going on around us can influence our beliefs. We might totally suck it in and bring it in and stick it in our roots, if you will, grow that root. And it wasn't even something we intended to believe in. So what are your beliefs about boundaries? Like, I really want you to ask yourself, what do I believe about boundaries? Some people think they're not okay, right? It depends on what your belief is about them. What do you believe about protecting your energy? What are your beliefs about being an empath? What are your beliefs about helping others? And here's the next question that follows that. Is there a difference between enabling and empowering? We often think that enabling would be like, oh, in helping and doing this, it enables someone to blah, blah, blah. And that sounds wonderful. That sounds more like empowerment, right? However, when I ask about enabling in this way, it means that do we enable in a way that keeps people stuck? If I keep doing this for you, then you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to figure it out at all because it's taken care of. And that's not the intention. It's not the intention, right? We want to empower, support, be helpful, not take over because people have free will and accountability, right? You have free will and accountability. I have free will and accountability. And every single person that we love, adore, and want to help has free will and accountability, whether we like it or not, or agree with it or not. That can be a tough one sometimes. Let me just let you sit with that. So I'm also going to be tossing an additional word, excuse me, codependency. And I'm not labeling anybody. We don't all have to go, oh, I'm codependent. Gosh, excuse me. Let me get a drink. But I do want us to be aware of it. Some traits and characteristics, some patterns of codependency, some patterns of thought, some patterns of action, because it plays a role in our ability or our decisions to either set boundaries or not, to protect our own energy or not. Let me just leave that at that. So next, have you seen this before? This is called a Johari window, and it just gives us a little more information about our self-awareness. When I first learned about it, I thought it was ridiculous. Like, of course we know about ourselves, right? We live with ourselves all the time. I know me better than anybody, although that may not be true. There are some things about us that we don't even recognize. We're not even consciously aware of it. We can be on a hamster wheel of old programs and patterns, and it's just a continuous unconscious or subconscious thing that we do, and we don't even see it until we finally see it, if we do. So I'm not going to teach the Johari window. Again, I just wanted to share this so that you had just to expand your own awareness. So we have what they call the open self. I'll go through some of the boxes real quick. Open self, information about you that you and others know, right? This is what I know about me. I share it. Others know about me. They see it too, blah, blah, blah. Hidden self is information about you that you know, but others don't. So maybe I don't share some of those things, right? Maybe sometimes, like, it could be as simple as you go to a store and you run into somebody, you're like, oh, how are you? I'm great. How are you? Fine, blah, blah, blah. And you're not fine and you're not great, but you're not going to tell them all that, right? Could be something as simple as that. Blind self, information about you that you don't know, but others do. So, kind of what I was saying, where others might observe in us some of those patterns that we're not even consciously aware of about ourselves that we're doing and repeating. Sometimes it's within language until I started getting in that observer mode more and could hear the words that I'm speaking, right? Because you get focused on the point you're trying to make. You don't actually hear yourself as you say it when you explain it. But when you do listen to hear yourself explain, then you're like, oh, wait, that didn't come out how I was thinking it. Like it doesn't sound the same. But that's just one example. But other people were listening to you all along, so they know, they were aware. And then unknown self, information about you that neither you or others know. It's just deep in the subconscious, it's deep in the layers, our energy body, that we just haven't come into our awareness yet, haven't surfaced yet. This box, if you were to do your own, isn't necessarily going to be perfect squares like this. Like you might be more open or less open. Like the lines would vary. They would be different than what we see here, just so you're aware. So then the role that our beliefs, emotions, thoughts, self-image, choices we make, etc. Oops. our help form our moral compass, right? Are you familiar with the moral compass? Have you heard that term before? I mean, I'm sure the concept underneath of it you're aware of. I just didn't know if you have heard that term before, the moral compass. So this might be when you're thinking of who is more deserving. Well, and right off the bat, we want to say everybody, we're equally deserving, right? But again, when we don't set boundaries and we don't protect our own energy, we don't take care of ourselves, then we're saying that everyone else is more deserving than we are, right? Whose responsibility is it? Well, even though we say free will and accountability, it's, we all have our own responsibilities. I take care of my stuff, you take care of your stuff, they take care of their stuff. But yet, if you were like me and you get into rescue mode and you are front and center to help and take over and rush to help, then you're kind of saying, let me take over, right? It's my responsibility. Now I'm taking on whatever it was that I wanted to help you with, whatever it is that you're dealing with, right? Again, this is just self-awareness. It's not blame, shame, or guilt. And then asking that question, am I helping or disempowering? So we want to empower, right? Be supportive, but not take over. Be helpful in the areas where people can't actually do for themselves. Not just when they say they can't, because maybe they just can't see it yet, right? How many of you have felt like, I can't do another day, but somehow we find a way, right? Not that I want anybody to be in there and have to do that alone or feel that way. I'm just saying that people typically, humans are pretty resilient and we don't turn our backs, but maybe we tweak how we help, the how to, the method that we help, right? So it's more empowering instead of disempowering. Instead of jumping in to take over, we get side by side, so to speak, and be like, okay, so you're doing this part. I'm here with you. What part can I do? And sometimes it's just allowing people to know that we care, right? So an activity I have for you is core values. Well, is actually about values. Sorry, I said that wrong. I was reading that little note right there. So I would like you to take a moment, whether you use pen and paper, if you put me on pause, um, use your phone, however you want to, Google Doc, whatever you choose. Sticky notes work just fine too. Index cards work great because you can shuffle them around. Excuse me. But I would like you to write 10 of your top values. So I'm going to just continue. So you can pause me. But write down 10 of your top values. And then I'd like you to put them in order, prioritize them. So like one of my sayings is family first, right? So that's going to go right up there on top of the list. Historically, I wouldn't have thought to add myself. So I'm giving you a cheat note right there. If you believe, I'm giggling now because we just talked about the Johari window and some of those hidden parts of self, right? If you believe that you also are one of your top 10 priorities, your values, put that in there. It could be health, it could be integrity, it could be honesty, it could be all kinds of things, relationships, having fun, whatever they are for you. No blame, shame, and guilt. Nobody's wrong. There's no wrong answers. And this is different for everyone. So it's not why I'm not going to show you like specific things here. But list your top 10, then put them in order. So whether you shuffle them like you have index cards or you write numbers to, number them in order, one being the most important value down to the least. Gets challenging because then if I asked you that if there was a thing like you had to get rid of one, which one would it be? I just want you to try it to feel how challenging that can be. So when you guys do this inner work, when you guys take these deep dives, when you guys try to set your boundaries, protect yourself, it's important to know because one, if you don't find that your well-being, that boundaries or this point of view of empowering versus enabling, um, If they're not up there, then it's probably not going to be as easy for you to stand in that truth of it. It's probably not going to be as easy for you to set them, right? But once you know what your values are, then it helps support you in setting those boundaries. It's almost a way of easing or taking away those inner feelings of blame, shame, and guilt we can get sometimes when we want to take care of ourselves too, because we value the betterment of others more, right? When we include ourselves in our priorities, in those core values, then it helps support and ease some of that ickiness, which is why I really want you to take the time, put me on pause and do that, okay? Emotions. So then we can look at how we feel. How do I feel if I help people? How do I feel if I don't help people? What does it feel like to tell someone no? This emotions list obviously is not all encompassing, but it's just a visual, right? Be aware, ask yourself those questions. Take a moment, right? How do I feel when I do help? And I apologize if you hear background noise. How do I feel if I don't help? How do I feel when I say no? How do I feel when I say yes? Sometimes it's different, it matters, right? If I feel good and my physical and mental and spiritual and social and all of my aspects of self are healthy and doing well and I feel great and I'm overflowing in an unconditional love and I can help and I can support and I can do more and I can do more and it feels wonderful and I can continue to help, right? That's where we want to be. However, when I skimp on my boundaries and I let my energy go in a sense, like I just let it collect all kinds of whatever it needs to or whatever it doesn't need to or whatever's thrown my way, then I start to feel drained and overwhelmed and depressed and anxious and angry and resentful. And then it doesn't feel so good to say yes and help more, right? Which is why we want to set the boundaries and protect our energy. This is one activity as well that, again, I will just share with you briefly. Have you heard of this one before? Using our five senses. This is a mindfulness activity based off of dialectical behavior therapy or theories. So just grounding into this present moment, literally being aware of where you are right now physically, right? So it's all the human senses. So it is I don't want to say heavier, but a denser energy, but it does help bring us into the physical instead of being too much in our head or too much in our emotions, too much in the um, energy that has us off focus, where the space where we can lose ourself. Toying with words and language because I know sometimes when we meditate and when we do other things and we're in healing, we are that open. It's the space we want to be in. However, if we are overwhelmed and we're anxious and resentful and angry and drained, that's not the same, right? So to bring ourselves into this moment so that we can start to determine what energy is ours and what isn't, this activity can help us do that. It can help us get grounded, right? Not the same as earthing, of course, but it can still help us get grounded and present physically in this moment. So what you can do is list 5 things, point out 5 things that you see. Now, if you just go around, I'm going to share this example, even though you don't see what I see facing in this direction, but the wall, a picture, a light, a window, a pillow. I did that pretty quickly. I'm probably not going to benefit as much, but if you can give more detail, the more detail you can give in each of your senses in each of these activities, these parts of each sense, the more benefit you will receive. So get into that detail. I see a light brown tan wall. It has wood grain. I can see the knots that were cut out of the wall. There's some grooves in there. I believe that there are some spaces that are smooth, some are a little bit rougher. I see a curtain, which is brown in color, right? I can give more detail. It's long, it covers the entire window. It's plain, there's no design on it. It feels mostly soft, kind of smooth, not real thick. Um, But do you hear the difference? Like brown curtain, brown wall, or tan wall, black blanket versus that detail. Because the more detail I get, the more grounded I get. Okay. So that's just so someone had broke it down. I did not create this either, by the way, but 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So again, it's using all 5 of your human physical senses that help bring you into this current present moment, which eases stress and anxiety. And again, when I get into the activity, when we get closer to the protecting our energy, it will be a useful tool that we will use. So keep this in mind as we continue on. So next, self-image, love and compassion. I hope you also see as I go through these, I'm trying to keep that connection, and I'm using the colors if you're familiar with the chakras and what colors that resonate with each one. So you can kind of see how all of this energy affects each of those chakras too. So self-image, to meet ourselves with love and compassion, because when we recognize that we have negative thinking patterns, if you are like me, the ego can start beating you down. You know better than that, and what are you doing? And right? It's not the purpose. Self-awareness, no blame, shame, or guilt. So again, pulling in this word of codependency, many of these negative thinking patterns are also a common trait or pattern for those who experience characteristics of codependency. So we have that all or nothing thinking. I either give it all or I give nothing. I either want it all or I want nothing. Everything has to be perfect or it's not good enough, which makes it really tough on a human, right? Because humans aren't, as a human, perfect. We're just not. That negative self-labeling, what do we call ourselves, right? I'm seeing in the negative self-labeling that however your belief is, and I'm going to use codependency again, whatever your belief is on codependency, some take that as a negative label, which is why it's avoided. Where I feel like it's just a description word that describes certain patterns and traits that we can recognize. And when we can recognize them, then we can work to change them. We don't have to stay stuck in them. But if I avoid them and I try to shy away from them, they just continue to keep going and repeating themselves. Personalization, thinking everything is about us. And I don't mean that in a way of like, oh, it's all about me and I'm so fabulous. I mean, maybe some people do. But even that aspect of, I have to help everyone. Because what? I'm superhero, right? That mindset. And I'm thinking back of books that I've read that kind of put it in that way. And I have a snarky sense of humor, so I apologize if I offend anybody. But that makes me laugh to think that way. Like, right? Of course, that's not the way we're thinking. We're not jumping in with a cape going, yay, I'm superhero. I'm here to save the day. I'm going to rescue you. However, when we charge in to help and rescue, in a sense, inadvertently, that's kind of what we're saying. You can't do it. You better let me help you. Right? And I know that's not what we mean. Also, in personalization, we might just assume that things are about us when they're not. Like when you walk into a room and you see people look up at you and then turn and continue talking, you're like, what are you saying about me? You just looked at me and now you're talking to each other. Well, they were talking to each other. They just looked because somebody came through the door, and that's what people do. Who's that? Right? And they just continue whatever they were saying. Catastrophizing, right? Especially when we feel the intensity of that energy, it feels massive, right? So it's then easy for us to catastrophize and blow it up even more. Sometimes it's not as chaotic as it feels. I'll just leave that there. And then we can minimize or magnify situations. Sometimes we blow it off like, nope, I'm fine. I could just keep on going. Nope, I'm fine. I could just keep on going. And you should take a break. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just keep giving and giving and giving and giving until we're flat on our face. So we minimize when we shouldn't be, when we should really just take those moments and check in with ourselves, right? And then also jumping to conclusions. So in speaking more on self-image and love and compassion, those words, I am, right? What defines you? A lot of these patterns and beliefs and emotions really create our self-image, who we are, who we believe we are, who we present to be, how we want to be, who we tell ourselves that we are, right? So if you, another activity, if you will, if you would write that down, start with I am, and just let yourself free flow. What comes up? How do you describe yourself? It could be anything. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a caregiver. I'm a grandma. I'm a friend. I am an aunt. I am a cousin. It could be those. It could be I am head of household. I am a Reiki master teacher. I am a business owner. I am, could be anything. I'm just saying it could be anything, right? Just let your mind go. I am spirit. I am love. Just see. And when you free flow and just allow things to write without trying to think about it, without like just listening and then writing and listening and writing, it's like tapping into your subconscious mind. And then we can get that idea. So you might write down some things and be like, what? That helps bring in your self-awareness. That was sitting within you, even if you didn't know it. And that could be something wonderful that you're just not consciously giving yourself credit for. So moving into the heart space, right? Transformation and forgiveness. So to be fair, I use this picture, as you can see, I like visuals, just to touch on forgiveness. However, I'm not familiar with Dr. Robert Enright's process model of forgiveness at all. But I just saw it and I was like, yeah, there we go. That says a lot, in my opinion. So uncover your anger when there's resentment, right? We often feel angry. When there's resentment, it's because we're not forgiving something, right? Whether it's ourselves or someone else, whether it's projected inward or outward, whether it's misdirected or not, either way, right? We uncover it. We decide to look into it to see where it's coming from. Decide whether to forgive or not because we have a choice. Forgiveness is a choice, right? We can choose to forgive or not. And we have all those beliefs and those thoughts and those emotions that help us make that decision one way or the other. Then we work on forgiveness if that's what we've chosen to do. And then deepening emotional relief with that forgiveness, we have the relief, right? It's release, it's the transformation, it's inner peace. We let go of the baggage, we let go of the anger, we let go of the resentment. That's really what forgiveness is about. Take that a little bit further because I found a quote that I wanted to share. So from Greater Good, Berkeley EDU, they describe forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness or not, right? It's not about them. And that's where we get caught up in that belief system and the value system and our thought system and the emotions because it's not about someone else at all. Forgiveness is for us. And it's big. So then your truth and communication. Why do you think this is important for boundaries, right? So become aware of your communication styles with yourself and with others. How will you set and maintain your boundaries? And what do our communication styles say to others? So we might be screaming no in our mind, but when we say yes or we say no, have you met those people? And maybe we've done it too. But have you met those people that you can say no and they still push? And you say no and they keep trying. And then you say no and they find that thing that finally you're like, fine, okay, do it. That. So being assertive, being able to stand in our boundaries, to maintain those boundaries, to stick with our whatever choice we made, right? Because we make that choice for a reason. Do my words and actions match that. So how often though we teach people that we will say no and then we'll do it anyway, right? So being mindful, when do we say no and then we do it anyway? Or when do we say yes and not do it? Maybe it's a complete opposite. Either way, being mindful. So it's that verbal and nonverbal communication. And then, of course, the why you were setting the boundaries. Again, doing that values, excuse me, activity will help. And this is a learning process for you guys. So again, we are scratching surface here. There is, I don't think I brought it up. I did not. Sneak peek. There was a little blurb out of Tiny Buddha, a blog that I was reading about why codependents don't trust themselves to make decisions and then how to start. So even making a decision to set the boundary and then making a decision to stick with it, right? And then we have more than one boundary. We have many, and how many situations. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read that. It says, perhaps like me, you were programmed from an early age not to trust your inner knowing or intuition. This results in low self-worth, and this happens for a number of reasons. 1, you were abused or neglected physically and or emotionally. 2, your feelings and needs were minimized. 3, you were judged, shamed, or mocked for your feelings, maybe even being called too sensitive. 4, your feelings and needs weren't as important as other people's. And 5, you didn't have at least one parent or caregiver validating your feelings and sense of worth. You didn't have someone mirroring back to you your value. I don't know about you guys. Can you relate? Because it nailed all 5 for me. So if you experience any amount of neglect or had emotionally unavailable parents like me, you probably learned to suppress your feelings in order to survive. And what we resist persists. So those feelings that we try to shove down only intensify. They don't go away until we address them, right? So again, part of the system brings it all together, helps us clear that out and reprogram, if you will, ourselves. So observer and acceptance, our intuitive feelings, and our human emotions. So I love that little pig pen dude from Charlie Brown. I have to think of the name of it. It totally reminds me of the energy and what we project out or what gets projected onto us, right? Because that picture shows both. One is projecting out and the others are receiving it in a sense, right? But what is the difference between those human emotions, which can seem chaotic, which can just be out there, kind of doing its thing, versus those intuitive feelings, which in the other picture, having that light, right? It's that deeper inner part of self. It's our highest self speaking to us. It's underneath, if you will, the human emotions that can feel dusty, dirty, and chaotic. And the radical acceptance means practicing a conscious effort to acknowledge and honor difficult situations and emotions, fully accepting things as they are instead of ignoring, avoiding, or wishing the situation were different can be a critical step in moving through a difficult experience to experiencing more meaning. That quote was from Psych Central. But how true, again. So intuitive feelings, trusting those, observing, it doesn't mean we don't have human emotions. It just means we observe the human emotion, right? Without getting sucked into it, having that radical acceptance. I don't like feeling resentful. And when I feel resentful, and then I realize that I'm being resentful towards someone else, oh man, the blame, shame, and guilt and beating myself up can really kick in with that, right? So that radical acceptance is staying in the observer mode, just saying, look, see it for what it is so that you can change it. Because otherwise, when we beat ourselves up with something like blame, shame, and guilt, we just add more resentment and anger and other icky, lower vibrational emotions to the bunch. We end up with more dirt like Pigpen to carry around and lug around and project out onto others, which is the exact opposite of what we want to do, right? So setting boundaries starts within, and then so we don't project out what we don't want to project out, but we're also not collecting and taking on other people's negative, icky, heavy projections either. I did have that clip for you. My apologies. I did read that already, so I'm not going to read it again, did I? Yes. So unconditional love and receiving. What do you allow yourself to receive? And again, I could go back to Big Pen, right? Are we receiving what we see with the light, the unconditional love, or are we receiving all the icky, gunky stuff, right? What do you allow yourself to receive? Oh, I did have it there. I apologize. I don't remember all of my slides in order. So allow yourself, I'm encouraging you to allow yourself to receive the source of unconditional love, because it's what the unconditional love is for everyone, right? It's for all of us. It's not all about me and screw everybody else, and it's not screw me and it's all about everybody else, right? It's great to continue giving, but we have to fulfill ourselves and receive in order to continue to give, to have something to give other than this dusty dirt that we have here. And when we don't have boundaries and protect our energy, we just end up with all this extra, extra, extra dirt, right, that we're lugging around. There's that saying, observe, don't absorb, right? It just brought me back to that, being the observer. We can still help people and support people, but we don't have to absorb it all. We don't have to take it all in. Sometimes holding on does more damage than letting go, right? So things may get projected towards us, but we don't have to hold on to it like a football and take off with it like it's like we own it, right? We can release it and let it go. I have to do that like I'm throwing it back at somebody, but just release it and let it go. So again, what happens if you don't set boundaries? Not setting good boundaries can cause you to harbor a great deal of frustration and resentment, which can bubble up and rise up to the surface after a while. You may feel like you're constantly helping and getting nothing in return, or you might find another partner, this is in relationships obviously, who needs your help and care in order to maintain a level of control in a relationship. So whether it's a romantic relationship or even friendships, right? We just shift from one to another. Over time, the anger and frustration may build up so much that you might start to lash out against your next partner, your next friend, your next family member. Compromising your happiness as an attempt to maintain a quote unquote perfect relationship and always be helpful to your partner will drain all of your energy and time, resulting in numerous conflicts in your relationship. And that was from a quote from Love to Pivot, talking about codependency again. So check in with yourself. Another activity for you, which is kind of quick on the protecting your energy. Because to be fair, setting boundaries and protecting your energy sound like two separate things, and they're not necessarily. In order to protect your in order to protect your energy, you have to set boundaries, right? Those boundaries help us protect our energy. If I believe that everyone else is more important than myself, then I'm going to leave myself wide open to continue to take on everybody's stuff, right? So another activity, and this is just my humor, but to remember it is like GIR, GIR, excuse me, GIR, GIR, but seriously, ground, identify, and release. Grounding, that five senses, right? Coming into the present moment. You can also kind of scan your body. I like to take a deep breath and I imagine breathing all the way into my feet and I follow that breath coming in through my nose, right? All the way down. And it just helps me get into my body and as if I'm scanning too. What am I feeling? And then as I pull myself into my physical body, I notice and I recognize any pain, discomfort. So it could be by myself, right? So when we're out and about, let me just backtrack a little bit. When we're out and about, we're collecting other people's energies. And then do we realize it right away? We bring it home, right? We bring it home. So either you're in the moment in the middle of a group around other people. It doesn't matter. You can do this activity. Nobody would have to know. It's just what you're focusing on within. Or it can be when you're home, you're like, what is going on? I feel off, right? So back to ground in, check in with your body. Notice where that discomfort is. Notice where that heaviness is. And ask it, is this mine? Literally. You don't have to say it out loud, just in your mind. Just be like, is this mine? And just feel. For me, I feel like the slight detach, just like something lifts slightly, not completely, but slightly. When that happens, then I know it's not mine. And then we release. I release this for any energy that is not mine. I release it and send it back to its original source. And actually, I usually say I transmute it into love first. I transmute this energy into love and send it back to its original source. And literally have that image. I see it turning to white, like bright white light, transmitting to love, and then just sending off to the universe. The universe knows where it goes, right? Not mine. Release it. Also, when I think of releasing, it's releasing what no longer serves your highest good. So something that you've been lugging around for a long time might be a belief. For me, patterns of codependency no longer serves my highest good. Things did serve our good for a while. We had to survive and we found ways to do it. No blame, shame, and guilt. We found it. It worked. But as we evolve, as we grow, as we heal, right? We don't need the same ways anymore. They don't serve us like they did anymore. So we can let those go too. So remember in all of this that you are an empathic healer. That's a term I like to use, empathic healer. Sneak peek. You are an empathic healer. Whether you use the term empath, highly sensitive person, whatever term it is that you use, healer, light worker, that's what's the word I'm looking for? Umbrella term, I guess, empathic healer. But as an empathic healer, you're gonna feel. So I know sometimes we look into how to protect our energy, hoping that we don't have to feel what we felt before, that we don't have to feel other people's stuff, right? So having that radical acceptance that we are going to feel, but we don't have to hold on to it. We are going to feel. It doesn't necessarily have to be or get to be super intense. Just depends on what it is, right? I'm sure there's some situations where it's going to be like, whoa, wow. But that observer mode, you check in with you find out what's going on with you. If it's not yours, release it because you are not responsible to hold on to it. And if you have a belief that says it is your responsibility, I invite you to dig into that belief to see where it comes from. Because again, this isn't saying that we don't care about anybody else and we don't help others, but it doesn't mean it becomes your responsibility, right? Finding the balance between empowering versus enabling that. So being okay and just radically accepting that you are able to feel other people's feelings and emotions, or you're seeing what you're seeing, or hearing what you're hearing, or having the knowing that you know, whatever your sense may be, radically accepting that and what it is, and then working with that, right? It's just because we have it doesn't mean it has to take over. Just because we have it doesn't mean it has to be so overwhelming and draining and exhausting, right? We have it to be a gift, not a curse. But we have to learn how to bring it in as a gift and not feel like it's been a curse, right? Shifting our own perspectives. So if you don't mind, I would like to take a minute to invite you to a few things. One being the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal. So if you signed up for the Masterclass at Expertise TV, you will see in the community that I had posted a download for you. So you can journal with me, right? So I'm on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble and Spotify doing this journaling every single day. So I invite you to continue on to do that. Costs time, some time and some energy, right? I also invite you to go a little deeper. So we scratched the surface today. Now we take this program a little bit deeper and we work with those beliefs and we work with increasing our self awareness even more and managing those emotions and our own self image, what's mine and what someone said I was supposed to be, or what influenced the belief that I was supposed to be something else. Loving ourselves, right? All the things to help breaking some of these patterns of codependency. And even if you're saying, I don't have codependency, I don't have patterns of codependency, not having boundaries is a pattern of codependency. So again, I'm not trying to say you have it. I'm not here to diagnose. It's not a diagnosis anyways. I'm not trying to be a label. It's just for identification purposes. But that's a big thing, right? So again, if you're like me, one of the traits or patterns of codependency is feeling like we lose ourselves because we're so engulfed with other people's things because we don't have these boundaries and we're not protecting our energy, right? So I have said before, but I'll share now in case you are new to me. There was a point in time I couldn't tell you, I couldn't explain to you who I was. I thought I knew who I was, but then people would ask me questions and I got confused because I didn't have an answer. And some of those questions were as simple as, what do you like to do? Hmm? What do you think? Hmm? I, I didn't realize. I wasn't consciously aware that I was so engulfed with everyone around me. They didn't know who I was. So that's why I call this the Be You challenge. Giving ourselves permission to get to know us, get to know you for who you are, who you choose to be, not by the old belief or the old pattern. You know, if the word codependency bothers you, just kind of ignore it. We're breaking patterns, right? Breaking old programs. This isn't pre-launch though. That's why it says pre-order. So if you are interested, my goal is to launch this December 11th, 2023. So if you see this before December 11th, 2023, and you are interested in ordering pre-launch, let me know. I have a coupon code for you at 50% off. If you're still here with me and you made it through this masterclass, my gift to you is a codependency breakthrough call. So again, even if you just have questions, if you're just curious about codependency, because you think maybe you're hearing some things that say you might have some of those patterns or traits, but you're just not sure, you can bring that to the call. I don't mind. This is a free gift for you. On Expertise TV, I was supposed to be able to drop all these links for you in the chat box. Since I'm not able to do that, I will find another way to get these links to you. You can always email me as well, or just let me know, and I will get the link for this call so you can schedule it. It's a free call. And again, the coupon code for, actually, I'll just give you that coupon code now. So the BU challenge, I can't show it on screen. Probably could, but I might mess everything up. Techie stuff. For the BU challenge and pre-launch. So for this, if you're interested in signing up, even before December 11th, 2023, when you go through the process, if you type in BEU, so BU special, all one word. So these letters, BEYOUSPECIAL. For the coupon code, you'll get it for 50% off. So if you go to theenergyhealingschool.com, you'll be able to see it right there. You'll see this actually. That makes it the easiest. If you are willing to provide a testimonial, that would be amazing for this masterclass, or if you come on the call, any of the courses that you may take, it's always helpful. I know if you're like me, before I sign up for something new, it's nice to see what other people are saying, what their opinions of or their experience was in it. So if you're willing to do that, that would be amazing. And if you could just email that to Robin at theenergyhealingschool.com, I would appreciate that so much. Text or video. appreciate video testimonials as well. And questions. So Q&A. If you would like to let me know any aha moments that you've had, what you've learned, what stood out for you, how you feel. Do you feel like you're able to create boundaries and protect your energy more now than before you started the class? That would be great to hear as well. You can send those an email. You can drop them on YouTube, Facebook, in the Energy Healing School community. Anywhere, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. There we go. That is perfect. So I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, whatever time in the world it is for you. I will see you soon. So much love.